Namaste. Welcome to the Ilongga Yogi podcast. My name is Kate, and Ilongga, which means I'm a native of Iloilo, a small but beautiful city in the Philippines. I'm a certified yoga instructor and I own a yoga studio here in Iloilo City as well, and I share content on yoga, mindfulness, fitness, mental health, self-care, and wellness. For today's episode, I wanted to share with you how getting COVID changed how I saw my mental health and my healing journey. But before we get into it, I want to let you know that I teach classes both at my studio and online. So if you're interested in taking a class with me, just head over to ilonggayogi.com/bodyloveyogastudio, all one word, for the schedule and rates and to book as well. All right, so some of you listening may have already been in quarantine with COVID, hopefully not, or you are currently in quarantine with COVID. But I think one way or another, we've all experienced being quarantined, right? And so if you have never ever had to deal with COVID, what I mean by that is that you never tested positive, well then maybe you are God's favorite. I'm just kidding. But I think all of the things I'll share here could actually be of help one way or another, I hope. And it was definitely important to me to do this episode, to share and express these learnings that I've had, because they mean a lot to me right now too. And it's kind of where I'm at in my life for now. So to start, the first thing that I have learned is that taking a week off from work without any guilt or shame should be the new norm. So here's the thing. I kind of want to discuss a little bit about it before I really get into it. You know, I think most of us, I would like to say, we all know that taking a break should be fine, right? But I think it's like very hard for us to admit that to ourselves and to actually do it and practice it, because we end up feeling bad. We feel really guilty for doing it. We feel like it's laziness. We feel like we're slacking off, right? But the thing is, you know, right when I got COVID and like taking that long break, you know, taking 2 weeks off and all, I realized like how good it was for me. And not only, you probably hear like the sirens in the background, how timely, but anyway, please ignore. But the thing is, it's been like a pattern in my life that every single time I get burnt out, I start to take a break, and I find that after taking a break, it's like I'm recharged, you know, like I'm refueled, and I'm able to show up and give it my all. I'm able to show up and do even better than expected, you know. And so for me personally, because of who I am, maybe it's because of what I've been through mentally. If you are not so sure what I'm talking about, basically I was diagnosed with bipolar 2 back in 2017. And even when I was younger, like I think I was in high school, I was also diagnosed with clinical depression. So it's been my life to deal with some sort of mental illness, and to deal with like the ups and downs basically of my mind, my thoughts, my emotions. And so for me personally, what works is taking a long break and then being able to show up once again and then actually be very productive that way. It like really works in my favor. And I know that's not the truth for everyone, but if you kind of relate to me and my story, then all the more you might be able to relate and resonate with everything that I'm going to share. So now that that's like explained, right before I got COVID, I was really deep in stress. And so I was very overwhelmed, and I just couldn't handle like the work that was pending for me. And it felt like I was almost suffocating because of everything that I needed to accomplish. So I know that's like really dramatic, but it's the truth. Backstory, moving into the new year, I took on several new roles and responsibilities, and I was like still in transition. So with me, when it comes to transition, I really prefer to take my time, and that's just who I am. So everything was just a huge mess. My old place was a huge mess, literally, and it still is now. And my new place was still not organized, which I get that that's part of the moving process. I can like accept that and move on. But of course, like living in a messy place, especially for someone like me, it affects my mental state a lot. Plus, I jumped into 2 new work roles. One is kind of time consuming, and the other one is quite intimidating because it's a big responsibility. Lastly, I was also settling down from the holidays, and it was very busy, and very chaotic because I had my mom here, I had my tita here, so relatives were here. It was our first Christmas in my mom's new home, and then our first Christmas with my boyfriend's family too. So it was just like a lot happening. And then for the first time in 2 years, we went on a trip. We went to Boracay. So it was just like a lot happening, and there were a lot of other things too that were happening personally in my life, that I feel I don't need to share anymore. But it was just like a lot. It was a lot every single day. And I tell you, I was pretty much breaking down almost every hour. Just like when I remember the things that I need to do but couldn't get done because I felt like I didn't have enough time in the day. It just felt like a lot, and it's just like a lot emotionally to deal with family around, right? So yeah, it was intense. COVID then happened, and I had no choice but to isolate in a bedroom. And in the first few days of being isolated, I was able to find time, finally, to practice yoga, to work out regularly, like in a way where I feel like good in my body. And then I was able to meditate properly and journal and sunbathe and just basically do all these things that are really like my favorite. Like they really fill up my cup. So it felt good to be able to do that. Not only that, I was able to actually work and be excited about work and catch up on the things that I needed to get done. So it just goes to show how big of a difference it is for me when I take time away from everything, where I'm not like overstimulated and I feel like I can breathe and be on my own and be alone. So that felt really good for me. And being able to close the studio for a couple of weeks, of course, isn't the best for a business in general. However, it lessened the load that I needed to finish. I realized when I came out of isolation, just like how much I needed that break to recenter myself and also to get back on track. And so this is why, moving forward now, I no longer let myself feel guilty. I don't want to feel guilty about taking those breaks, even if it is technically not the best decision for a business, especially for my studio, let's say, or even for my other small business, my juice, the daily greens. It's not the best thing to do, right? Typically, but honestly, I don't care about that anymore because it's something that I need, and it's important to me that I be unapologetic about that because it's necessary for me to like survive. I no longer want to take in more work just for the sake of money or to prove that I'm working hard or that I'm successful. That doesn't matter to me anymore. And there's also no point if it'll simply like push me to burnout. So, I think that because before I used to be so hard on myself, I would always tell myself that I'm not doing enough. And if you've been like following me or listening to my previous episodes, then you know that this has been my struggle. Like I always feel like I'm not doing enough. And now, like after going through COVID and being isolated for 2 weeks, I finally realized that I don't really care anymore about not being able to do as much as this person, or not living up to the expectation that I have of myself that I think my family has for me. You know what I mean? And so I want to allow myself to take breaks, to set a week off if needed, to step away from everything every now and then, and to just give myself time to reset, especially because I know when that feeling is about to happen. And so when that feeling comes up again, I will listen to it, and I will respect that feeling and set boundaries immediately, and take the time I need so I can reset, catch up on anything, and finally just to do that for my own peace of mind. And I will honor that 100%. So again, the first huge lesson that I learned is allowing myself to take a break and being unapologetic about that, really letting that be my new normal. The second thing that I learned in isolation and in quarantine is that I must savor my alone time more often. And I know that is kind of still related to the first lesson, the first learning that I had, but this is going to be slightly different because it focuses not on work, but more on friends and family. So I'm an introvert, and as again, I deal with mental stuff and all. I don't really want to label that on me anymore, because I feel like I have in a way graduated from that, and I have moved on from that, but also I know that that's still a part of me. So knowing that baggage that I kind of carry with me, I know that when I'm overstimulated or when I spend a lot of time with other people, I get very drained. And for me, after taking those 2 weeks off and being away from people, I felt good getting back into the world, and especially after spending a lot of time with myself and being able to hear my thoughts and being able to listen to myself a little bit more without feeling like I am disconnected to my own self, And for me, I want to be more intentional in how I spend time with others and make sure that in a way it energizes me instead of draining me. And I know that's something that we kind of all know already. Again, it's something that isn't a new way of thinking or anything. It's just that after going through that and as I was in isolation, again, I realized that I should be unapologetic about it. I should set stricter boundaries for myself and understand that I need to spend time alone because it's for my own well-being. And I really need to honor that. I really need to learn to say no to spending too much time out, even if there are moments when I feel like I kind of want to spend time with friends. I kind of want to go out, let's say have a drink or eat out with them. For me now, it's time to say no to that and to say yes to myself, and to say yes to time alone, to say yes to recharge a little bit every now and then, so that I can just be a better friend, a better friend for sure. I think that I know people might say it's being selfish, but again, we're being unapologetic. And also take note that I'm not actually saying that I want to turn my back on friends or other people or anything. It's just that my priorities need to shift now, and I want to prioritize my family now and my mental health, and of course, given the pandemic situation, even if it's not as severe as it used to, we still don't know that. We still need to, be careful and not spend too much time with others in such close proximity. It's important to stay safe and all. So that makes it a little easier to do this, you have an actual reasonable excuse. But and of course my friends are still going to be important to me, but I just want to show up for them in a different way where I can be more present for them. And so again, I know that before I used to tell myself that I need to socialize more, especially when I was still single. Now it's kind of different. I want to lessen that a little bit and spend more time with me, because who knows until when I'll be able to do that, especially if I want to become a mom and I want to have kids. This might be the last time that I'll ever get to spend time with myself. So I'm going to cut back on that for now, without hurting my relationships with my friends, so that I can make more time for my family and myself. So the third would be living slowly is my path to peace and happiness. In quarantine, I had no choice but to go through my day slower since I had so much more time. And I know that all of us experienced that, especially those who weren't health workers, who were stuck at home. We definitely had to adjust our routine, and it's a huge transition to go through that. But for me, when I got out of quarantine and back into my routine, I felt like I didn't want to be guilty anymore about moving slow as I did in quarantine, about taking my time in certain things, even if it means it'll take me longer to get things done. So that's been like an issue of mine for a long time. And I think that's where a lot of my triggers begin. That pressure that I put on myself, because again, I'm always comparing myself to others. And I always look at how I work and how slow I am, how I need to take my time in certain things, and how, let's say, for example, in my family, because we have a business and we have other responsibilities that we have to take on, things that move faster, of course, are rewarded and are kind of seen. And when I do the way I do things, when I work that way, of course, it's not as efficient as I feel like some people may like. But for me personally, I would rather work that way, and I want to honor that, because I don't want to push myself and force myself to work a certain way and then burn myself out just because of that pressure that I need to do this, I need to be this. And I've been through that back when I was younger, and I completely understand, and I have lived through that. I have experienced that feeling of just forcing yourself and trying so hard to achieve what everyone else wants you to achieve, and going beyond that, and then in the end just still feeling disappointed in yourself, or if you fell short of what you wanted to achieve, just that being like so painful, and I've learned from that experience that from now on, especially after going through isolation, I will honor that boundary like 101% as much as possible. I will not feel guilty or let myself feel bad for the way I do things and maneuver through my life, even if it's slow, even if I want to take my time, if anything, instead of always trying to work so fast-paced, because for me, there is really no point. Ironically, I have become way more productive and less anxious because of me letting go this idea that I need to do more and be more and work faster and work harder. And so now I want to move as slow as possible, so I have that moment before any action to just pause and reflect, any decision to pause and reflect a bit. I'm going to honor that pace that I choose to go by, especially with someone who has been diagnosed with bipolar 2 in the past and clinical depression, as I've mentioned earlier in this episode. I can't let my emotions run too high or too low. And so if that means that things will take a lot longer, things will be delayed, everyone else will just have to adjust to that, because I am unwilling to adjust that part of me anymore. I choose to live slowly and to stay connected with my emotions and my body at all times. And that way, it'll kind of stop me from overreacting or getting ahead of things, getting ahead of myself, especially for people who deal with the same issues as me. We tend to overthink a lot. So I don't want my mind to run too far away, you know. I want to be able to just be in the present moment more, to savor that no matter how long it'll take. Everyone else will just have to wait. And also I want to practice listening more, whether it's just listening to myself, listening to my emotions, to my heart, to my mind, listening to what's around me, like in the moment, like feeling the space that I'm in, but also like simply just listening more and not talking as much, minus the podcast, because of course I need to talk here. But you get my point. Like, I just want to be able to listen more and to just be, you know, to not do so much anymore. I want to just be. And so that's why peace is my power, and that is something that I will hold in high regard, and that's something that I will prioritize above anything else. So, in summary, being in isolation and getting COVID was stressful, even though I felt fine, thankfully. But it gave me the time to reflect on a few things, which I feel every isolation should be like that. First, I've learned that it's important for me to take a long break from work for me to reset and work better moving forward. And I choose to take advantage of the fact that I can take this break. You know, I can step back a bit and not feel guilty about that, because I know I need it. Second, being more mindful in how I spend my time when I'm with friends can actually benefit my mental well-being. So I need to choose when and how to spend time with them so I can be more present when I am with them, which will work better for me so that I can make more time for my family and for myself as well. It's also a way for me to recharge, instead of always like spending time with people and socializing. For me, I need some time, a couple of weeks, let's say, to just recharge a little bit and then give my time to them. Lastly, living slowly instead of always chasing after one thing and then the next isn't efficient for me. And I choose to say no to activities and work that will push me to burnout just for the sake of like money or proving myself or any other reason. Honestly, taking one's time should be honored and respected. And as I said, I'm going to hold that very highly for myself now, because I don't want to push myself and work so hard and work so fast all the time. I've embraced a whole new part of me, honestly, thanks to being in isolation. Of course, it wasn't the best reason, but, you know, I wanted to get something good out of that time of just being alone, trying my best to stay at home so I don't pass it on to anybody else. So I'm grateful for that experience, and that my COVID experience wasn't as bad either, except for the part that I was always worrying about family. But thankfully, everyone else is okay at home. And I hope that you also have learned something from this episode, and maybe you've had your own learnings from your own experience of having COVID or of just being isolated. And most importantly, I hope you and your family remain healthy and safe throughout the rest of this pandemic, hopefully soon endemic. So anyway, thank you for listening to this episode of the Ilongga Yogi podcast. Please check out my blog for just more updates. I have more content up there. I even post my classes in real time there, and any other events that are happening on my studio, I also have that up there. So it's ilonggayogi.com. That's ilonggayogi.com. And follow me online as well at Ilongga Yogi, same exact thing. Take care of yourself and see you next time. Bye.